I don't even know how to do this. It's a trash guy right there. Trying to see what's going on around these parts. Just trying to see. That was weird. Just disconnected me. As I said, Japanese speakers, please go easy on me. I'm not used to speaking Japanese on camera. In natural settings, I'm a lot better than what I usually am on camera. But that being said, I thought the response was pretty good. I'm gonna start doing like these little reviews of certain content videos on live, especially on YouTube. So you guys can kind of get a sense of how I'm thinking, how I feel about it. It's odd, you know, living in Japan and having to deal with people who really don't know like what my daily life is like. And one of the best things about the daily life in Japan is that it's kind of easygoing. And one of the reasons why I decided to live in Japan for this extended period was because life was just a little bit easier. It's just a little bit easier than what I normally would get outside of Japan. So to the tool, um, I'm actually at odds with a lot of the inclination to criticize before seeing that action. Before this is one of those things like in the West, there's like this thing that we do where instead of trying to figure out the reason why something is done, we immediately like to go to our instinct of criticize it first, then make sure that it's never done again in my presence, because I don't like what you just did. That's something that you don't often see in Japan. Um, uh, it's just something that you don't see. Here, you guys get to see a temple again. That's all good. Actually, you know what? Don't want to go in this one. I want to go in the other one. We're gonna go in the other temple. Right? We're gonna go in the other one. This is actually a nice little graveyard that I'm walking through. That's always fun, right? So I'm gonna walk it, so it's gonna suck, but it's gonna be fun. Let's walk it, all right? All right. So as far as fashion stuff is concerned, I think fashion is in kind of like this rut where everybody's doing like collaborations and everybody's doing this stuff that's just not interesting. Although I will say that the Sakai acronym collab is amazing. What the hell is coming soon, my friend? Very, very soon. So it is one of those things where I believe that people are just gravitating towards what's popular, and what's popular is what's selling, and it's making fashion quite boring. Like, I'm actually bored with the fashion industry right now, and I have been kind of gravitating towards labels, brands, and designers that I particularly enjoy because that's the only respite I find in fashion. So on the fashion front, that's how I feel. On the Japan front, the Japan life front, uh, but on the Japan front, I mean, Japan is Japan. We got the Olympics going on. One of the bad things about the Olympics is Olympic, né? One of the bad things about the Olympics is, you know, you don't get to see the athletes out and about. It's not a lot of commotion happening because all the athletes are in their own little bubble. So it doesn't feel like it's the Olympics right now. So it's actually kind of sucks. Um, so it's not like Olympic City right now. It's just Tokyo and the Olympics are happening somewhere. And what's funny about that, my area, the place that I live, was supposed to be where the main village was, right? I live in Setagayaku, and in Setagayaku, like, we were supposed to have all the athletes here. And we don't, which sucks. Because I'm about to be all up in there. I'm about to be all the way over there chilling with my homies over there in America and Austria. That didn't happen. So, you know what it is. That's what you get, right? I feel like I should have some money on me. Nah, I don't. I forgot my wallet at the house. Right? So, I don't have it. But, we'll watch this guy go by. You want to see it like go ahead and take a little morning break so you guys can see my streets I live on. There you go. This is Gotokuji, like Miyanosaka, close to Gotokuji Temple. We're gonna go to Gotokuji Temple so you guys can see that. Maybe, I don't know, Gotokuji Temple is kind of far, right? I make supreme designer videos, my brothers. Go ahead, Mr. Grill, shoot your shot. I'm with you. Shoot your shot. But yeah, so I will say something though. We're just gonna me going off a little bit on as far as the whole. I think we mentioned this on Instagram, the whole black guy in Japan thing, or the whole Nihongo shaberu no ga koyu kanji de, like that whole thing. I think it's starting to get out of hand. As far as the idea that I need to be kind of like this mascot for certain people in Japan. I'm not a mascot. I'm just a dude that lives here, right? And I've been living here for a long time. So it's not like I have to talk about every single issue that everybody think is like necessary. That's just not gonna happen. Oh, we get to see the cat. Hold up. I'm crossing the street right now. You guys get to see some B-roll. B-roll right here. You wanna know how to make your videos better? Do some B-roll in the middle of a live. Do some more B-roll right here. B-roll. You guys get to be in Japan. B-roll during a live. Who's doing that? Nobody. Only your boy. That's what happens, right? So no, like, I think it's getting kind of ridiculous. Like, the expectation that we have from content creators to be perfect or to do what we want them to do is actually another part of this whole. I think we're in we're in the content creation era, right? And in that content creation era, we want everybody that we follow to be like us, but public. I'm here to tell you guys it's not always going to be the case, right? We're not going to talk about everything that you want us to talk about. We're not, sometimes our content doesn't really fit that bill, or we don't feel like it fits that bill. And a lot of the time it requires more nuance, and maybe you need to talk face to face with this person. And that requires a lot more, and that just requires a lot more, just nuance, and you're just thinking, right? Just thinking. You just gotta think, like, would I want this person to talk to me, or do I want to talk to this person? That's how I feel. Do I want this person to talk to me, or do I want to talk to this person? And usually when it comes to complicated issues, You want to talk to the person. And that's how I feel. That's how I operate. I don't like talking about complicated issues online because people take hot takes, get these hot takes, and then people just be talking out the side of their mouth. Man, matsuri ne. Matsuri ne. Matsuri. 全然ない今日。祭りは全然ないんですけど、ちょっと蒸し暑いなんですけど、これはね、これは特別なところ。これじゃない？それで見て、面白いでしょ。これ見て、ここが金がありますので、それとそれがね、蒸し暑いよ。It's very humid。これとこれはちょっと待ってね。I have to give some respect to it. There we go. This is like one of my favorite places in this area. Right? なんていうの? Let's go find out. It's the one in my neighborhood. This is where a matsuri always happens. So we're gonna go. You're gonna actually see something even more special. I have to go around this. And then we go through here. You know, do more of these. So, see the koi? You know? We'll go right here. You guys don't know I'm bowing right now. Look at that. Oh, more B-roll. Look at that. It's a little open, isn't it? Big guy. So, yeah, my friends. This is the only people I talk to. Okay. 厳島神社。ね。And then, of course, 厳島神社。これはね、one of my favorites, but like I don't have a mask on right now, so people are probably looking at me like I'm crazy. Yeah, I don't know. What am I looking at me? I'm looking at this. Right? And then Setagaya Hachima. This is Setagaya Hachima. So yeah, some big hoodies. And then when you go outside of this piece, you got street. So it hits you right on the street. Japan 101. That is Japan. Ne? So look at this. これ、新鮮コロナウイルスのため中止。これ、夏休み、夏休みラジオ体操。So normally they would do 夏休みラジオ体操. Like it's like summer radio like workout. Like it's like a thing that they do on TV. Um, Radio Taiko is like something that's very common in Japan. It's like they tell you to do all these like moves to get your body limber, and it's on the radio. So a lot of old people do it, but a lot of the time they'll do it at like the nantino, these places, like at Jinja. So that's why it says. But they canceled it because of coronavirus. Kind of crazy, huh? Yeah. Right now, there's no sidewalks. I'm walking on the street here. So it's relatively dangerous. But we're going to make a nice little turn right here so we can be less dangerous. How would you guys feel if I told you that this is a two-way street? This is a two-way street. Look at my feet. Look at where the things are. There's my feet right there. It's a two-way street right here, ladies and gentlemen. Two-way street. And look, this person has a Jeep. How the hell you gonna do two-way street? You gonna do that? Tokyo. No space. No space. それはこっちは何だ？このところ全然わからないんですけど。あ、全然わからないんですけど。Oh, it's trash day today. これは面白いでしょ。これ見て。This is like, okay, recyclables and then combustible 可燃ゴミ 不燃ゴミ So like every day, like you have to separate your trash. It's like probably the most annoying thing in Japan. But very useful. So I like it. 本当に役に立ちますね。Oh, that's the jinja. So yeah, these are basically, oh, there ain't no ladies out this morning. It is dummy hot outside. You guys should actually see my arms. They are super sweaty, mainly because I'm holding this phone up in landscape mode like a crazy person. But these are considered like nice homes. These are considered big homes in Japan. These places. These are considered like the nice area. このそうだね。お、これは面白いでしょ。で、嫌い。無断、いえ。面白い。How much would it cost to live here? Depends on. It depends. It depends. これは綺麗でしょ。This place is so peaceful. But your driveways are so small. ね、これがね、面白いでしょ。それと、あ、スクールだよ、スクール。ほんまに。Right, that place. This is so entertaining. Not gonna lie. I don't even know why I did this today. I think I was fomenting. I was kind of upset. And then I was just like, you know what? Let's just take a walk, get our mind off of things. And you know, no, we're going to school, baby boy. We're going to school. All right, so let me see here. Oh, I don't know if I can actually film the school because kids might be there. Kids might be there. Look at this place. It's like a squared up box area. It's also a home. All right, so these are like what schools are like in Japan a lot of the time. Um, and they're not like super big, but um, they're like they have a lot of facilities. So I don't want to get people upset and start filming schools, and then people be like, "Yeah, nande sore ya?" Yamete. And then I get myself in trouble. This is still Miyanosaka. It's my neighborhood. I'm actually walking around areas that I don't normally walk around. Oh, finally a sidewalk. 元気屋さんかな。元気屋の教科書でしょ。うん。じゃあ日本語を勉強するのがなんていうの。私にはなんか in my mind 教科書はいらないんですけど。だって教科書を使えば完全マスターの方がいい。完全マスター。完全マスターは超役に立ちますね。So 完全マスター is like one of the best because it uses primarily 日本語 and だって like it doesn't なんていうの it doesn't like shortchange you with over explained over explained in English concepts. What Kanzen Master does is it gives you a sense of like how to learn Japanese the Japanese way, which is why I think the Genki books teach you how to learn Japanese the Western way, which is highly over-explained a lot of the time. So it's good. I mean, any Japanese book is a good book if you want to learn, but I think it really just depends on your learning style. So if you want to study Japanese, I suggest you kind of understand what your learning style is, but just know that the Genki books are kind of geared towards a Western mind because we actually have, 日本人がなんか何を勉強するときにthey don't ask a lot of questions 質問がないんですけどなんか they just accept whatever is in front of their face right and they don't really like we have a tendency as Westerners to like ask questions like なんていうの like どういう意味という感じで like what does that mean or なんでそういうことを言ったのみたいな感じですね but we like why do I need to say this or why is it said that way and we tend to overcompensate with grammar we want to be like exactly correct and we overthink the grammar so when like we're making a sentence we don't think about the conversational element we just think about how if we're right or not but you quickly come to find out that 日本人が they never speak exactly like this like 日本語がわかりますか they never say that kind of stuff and they never say it like that なんていうの paced it's not like 日本語がわかりますか which is what the book will teach you even when you're like listening to なんていうの like the tape or something like that. They'll teach you in a way that's just not, that's just so unnatural, right? Let's take a look at, while I'm explaining this stuff to you, you guys can take a look at the street. So it's very unnatural. It's like nobody speaks like 日本語がわかりますか? It's more like 日本語がわかるの?日本語喋るの?みたいな感じで。Right? Nobody ever does that. So like it's very difficult when you're learning from the Western perspective because they give you like this slow, methodical approach to Japanese. I love this house. I don't know, man. August, I don't know. I love this place right here. It's built on a corner, but they made the house on the corner, and this is like my favorite house in this area. I love that place. Right, so sometimes the houses are incredibly beautiful, but just tiny because, space. But back to that Japanese thing. I really think that, the best way to learn is to 聞いて聞いて聞いて聞いて聞いて like simply listen. よく聞いてくださいね。Right? こんにちは。Right? So like listen a lot. That's what I did. And still, some people complain. What's funny is that people will tell you, oh, Japanese are always polite. They'll never say like your Japanese is bad, and they'll always be encouraging. And when they don't say anything, somebody just told me that today. When they don't say anything, that's when you know your Japanese is really good. When Japanese people don't say anything about your pronunciation. I'm here to tell you that no matter what level you are in Japanese people will always be surprised when you actually speak Japanese to them. That's a false statement. Because I think it's like, you don't know what it's like being a foreigner in Japan until you're a foreigner, right? Really what it is this. It's this. When you first start speaking Japanese to a Japanese person and they say, 日本語うまいんですけど, right? They'll say something like, oh, your Japanese is so good. Or like if it's a girl, they'll be like, oh, 日本語上手, right? And typically what that means normally, 90% of the time, is like, oh, like you can speak Japanese. It may not be, 日本人っぽいなんで、日本人っぽくないなんですけど、なんか日本語を喋るようになる. Like you can speak. でもね, maybe your pronunciation is off a little bit, maybe something like that. But you could speak. But if they hit you with the, 日本は何年ぐらい住んでいますか? If they ask you how long you've been living in Japan, that's when the conversation changes. Because then they're like, wait a minute. Like, that means your Japanese is at a different level. And it's higher than I expected. So there's always going to be a moment where Japanese people are asking if you're a foreigner and you speak Japanese. And the reason why a lot of people come up with their own reasons is because they don't know that the experience is like living in Japan as a foreigner. So they're like, oh, Japanese people are just polite. They're just going to say something like that to you. No, they tell everybody your Japanese is good if you're a foreigner. It's if you get that second question, how long you've been living in Japan? Because then it's like, you've been living in Japan long enough to actually, for me to comment about how long you've been living here. Because your Japanese is at a level that's quite high. So understand those two different things. Every single foreigner, like, yeah, it's kind of like gatekeeping in a way, all right? Every single foreigner gets the Nihongo Jozu. Every single one, right? That whole idea that some people have told you, like, oh, when Japanese people say Nihongo Jozu, that just means that your Japanese is okay and they're being polite. I'm like, come on, dog. They say that to everybody. They say that to everybody. And it's always, it's always like either, and I hate to say it like this, but it's always like なんか日本語喋るアジア人ですけど、なんか日系人なんですけど、they're always like giving reasons why, like, but they haven't experienced Japan as a foreigner, right? They don't experience Japan as a foreigner. I experienced Japan as a foreigner, right? So they make up like reasons why maybe your Japanese is not so good, or oh, like they just come up with stuff. It's kind of annoying, right? Like we recently did the video on how to say things in Japanese, right? And admittedly, when I was doing that video, we're actually gonna go to the park. When I was doing that video, I was actually quite nervous because, one, as anybody would tell you, speaking Japanese on camera in a controlled format is a skill. Like that is not easy to do, and especially if you're a foreigner and you're trying to learn how to do this, it can come off incredibly different. So when I did that video, how to say Japanese, famous Japanese brands in Japanese, I reviewed it and I was like, that's not how I sound in Japanese. Like it sound like, even to me, I watched it several times and I was just like, this is not me. Like that's not how I am, right? But because I heard like the inflections, like I listened back to it. Now it's like I heard it and I was just like, yo, that's not how I sound. Right? That's not how I sound in Japanese. But even I thought it was kind of like, you know. Even I thought it was like kind of cringy in a way. I was just like, man, what am I doing? Like, because I even heard it and I knew that was going to be an issue, which is the reason why I said, I told like, yo, if you speak Japanese, please go easy on me, because I knew in that kind of setting, it was going to be much harder for me. Because again, like many of you guys don't know, I'm reading off of a script. And when you're reading off of a script, like you're trying to get everything right. So imagine how hard it is. Imagine how hard it is to speak Japanese. Imagine how hard it is to speak English when you're first like doing a video, right? You're first doing a video. Imagine how hard it is just to do a video and you have a script and you have to do it in your natural English voice, right? It's nearly impossible. Like if you're first on a video, you're gonna sound so rigid, right? And you're gonna be trying to, you're overcompensating, and then you end up not sounding exactly like yourself. Well, imagine you're trying to do that in your second language, right? So it's basically starting from ground zero, which is the reason why I was like, I know somebody's gonna say something about this. Like I'm overcompensating because I know like it doesn't sound as natural as I want it to sound. But again, like I try to explain to homeboy in the comments, it's like, yo, imagine, I got my Tyrone Bigley going on. Imagine having to do this in your second language. It's hard. It's not easy. You know, it's not something that comes naturally. It's not something that you're going to get used to. But in order for me to get better at it, at least on camera, speaking Japanese on camera, it's a skill. It's a skill. In order for me to get better at it, I have to keep doing it. And so if I want to do these interviews in Japanese with Japanese business owners, and if I want to do these interviews with like Japanese influencers or whatever, I have to be able to facilitate in Japanese. So that was really practice. 練習だよ, 練習. Right? I was really practicing. I'm like, okay. And so when I get responses like, それはね、外国人っぽいなんですけど. Like, I'm like, dude, come on now. Come on. Come on. Come on, give me a break. Give me a break. Give me a break. I'm learning how to do this, and I need your help in doing this. Instead of trying to, hate, congratulate, and be like, oh, yo, this is what you should do. Like, should probably be a little bit more natural in this area, right? Like you need to do this, like encourage me, I gotta get better. Right? So I just gotta get better, that's all. So for everybody out there that may have had something to say about it, I'm still learning, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So I'm still learning. I'm always learning. But I'm learning how to facilitate in Japanese on video, on camera, with a script, which is incredibly difficult because the whole thing's written in Japanese, and I'm just like, I've never actually read a script in Japanese before that time, like a whole ass script. The kid ain't behind me. I see behind me, fool. Never actually done it. So that was the first time, hopefully the first time of many. So I thought I should explain myself in that regard. Because on the street, I'm not as rigid. Okay, so Sakai's acronym. So one of the things that we're going to start doing was発音練習発音練習だよね練習だよ練習 The reason why I say it like that is we actually had this thing in my Japanese class where me and my other former classmates, we used to always say in Japan, because our teacher would always say 練習だよ練習 and so we would always say that to each other, like whenever we got something wrong, like if we just like messed up, if we said something messed up, even amongst each other, we'd be like, yo, 練習だよ練習練習 So every time, it's actually kind of funny, because we'd be in like the craziest places, like at a club, you talking to a lady, you'd be like 練習だよ練習 So it's always a learning process. That's what Japanese is. Always 発音練習 なんていうの? Okay, so what else? Sakai acronym. I love it. I meant to go ahead and say something else. We're actually going to have this thing where we're going to start covering like collection reviews and brand reviews on like Reels, Shorts, and on TikTok. So we're going to be doing like these 1-minute collection brand reviews on anything that you guys suggest. So if like you guys want me to do like Sakai acronym and doing like a 1-minute review, yeah. We're going to have all of that stuff be available. So it's like an extra piece of content that you guys are going to get on Shorts, Reels. Well, hold up. Let me go ahead and answer that later. Those kind of things, those are going to be on those platforms. So it's going to actually be fun because I'm going to I have to be short and sweet, but it gives you guys a chance to kind of engage a little bit further with what we talk about in a shorter format, whether it's not like WTH and I have to give a whole ass video on it. So, whole ass. Yo, what up? Konnichiwa, bitches. Right? So I don't have to give you like a whole ass video on Sakai acronym. I can like give you a short or reel. It's something that I think, can add a little bit more flavor to with the content that you already know about. But yeah, we're gonna do it. But as far as Sakai acronym is concerned, I mean, this is what I thought. This is the direction I thought that Sakai and Dior were gonna do, right? Which is an amalgamation of the best parts of each label, right? If you know like the best parts of Sakai are the fabric choice and the silhouette, right? Best part of Dior under Kim Jones is detail and tailoring, right? So those two things, and it wasn't that. It was just like, it was boring. But Sakai acronym, that's how you're supposed to do it. The best parts about acronym are its take on this, not minimal, I should say, but just its take on technical garments and how you make those technical garments into something that's wearable, that's not so gaudy and just costumey. That's one thing that acronym does well. And Sakai, again, silhouette, fabric choice, and it just so happens that acronym uses some of the best fabrics with some of their technical garments. And add that to Chitose Abe's just skill under the scissors, under the knife. It doesn't get much better than that. I think it's wonderful. I think it's great. I think even the Sakai Cause jump off, she blew it out of the water. Blew it out of the water. That's like one of the best collabs with Cause I've ever seen. Never, I mean, that's exactly how you're supposed to do it. And let's just go give it up for Chitose Abe and let me just say that this is probably becoming the best collaboration brand on the planet. Like if you're collaborating with Sakai, you can almost rest assured it's gonna be pretty good outside if you go like heavy in the direction, right? All right, I just want to show you guys some of this other stuff. Lady got skills. Obviously on there. Yeah, well, check this out, check this out. So like in Japan, everybody rides bikes, right? Everybody. So like you have these bike parking areas where it's nuts, right? Yes, we do got plans for the casual website. We're actually working on that internally. Good question. It's happening. It's happening. So like you have like thousands and thousands of bikes. Like this place is gonna be filled by the middle of the day. It's still morning time over here. Right? Yeah, definitely. Like these are just like parking areas for bikes. Like it's crazy, right? Look how they have them like you station one down, one up, one down, one up, one down, one up. This one, yeah, one down, one up. It's kind of cool right there. You guys parking areas for bikes. This is just my neighborhood, y'all. G-Star Denim, yeah, man. G-Star is actually doing big things out here in Japan. What is my situation with females in Japan? What do you mean? I have no situation with females in Japan. Most of the time, dog, like when it comes to like ladies in Japan, I don't talk to ladies in Japan like that. Like, I think people don't tell nobody I said this, but I think people got like rose-colored glasses when they be thinking of Japanese women. You know what I'm saying? Like they be thinking every Japanese girl, look, you gotta come over here for like a few months, maybe a few years to understand. Not all of them are bad. Like you gotta get used to it, right? Don't come over here and be like, oh my God. Oh my God, Japanese girls are so hot. And then you just end up getting with the first one you see, bro. You better do a little bit of, you better do some stoppage in the play, flag on the play. You might want to stop that real quick because you get caught up with somebody and you be like, man, what the hell was I thinking? Dead ass. Dead ass serious. Like, what was I thinking? Like, Obama come up to you like, well, I'm telling you what we're going to do. We're going to stop this and go in another direction. Because we can't have you out here disrespecting yourself, right? Right? Got to go in a different direction, baby boy. You got to go in a different direction. You know what I'm saying? That's serious. We can't have you out here. The American people will not stand for it. So, yeah, that's all I'm saying. When it comes to Japanese ladies, you know, take them rose-colored glasses off. You know what I'm saying, Playboy? It'd be a lot easier for you. When I first got to Japan, of course, I was clubbing every day. It's like, I'm up in here, homie. I'm here. What y'all doing over here, cuz? Konnichiwa. Konnichiwa. I was giving people all kinds of different, like, all kinds of different views of myself. It's like, where are you from? It's like, oh, I'm from I'm from Colombia. It's not even a Colombian accent. Just tell people any old thing. I want it to be exotic, right? Uh, yeah, nah, man. You gotta just know. Like, you gotta be. You just gotta be. Nah, actually, do the weak ones. Yeah, yeah. No, actually, what's really funny, I didn't ever go to Roppongi, right? Like, I went to Roppongi like twice my first few years in Japan. I went there like 2 times. And then I was like, nah, I can't. それはできないよ. Like, I was like, yo, I can't do this. Roppongi is like, Roppongi during the day is amazing, but Roppongi at night, it's an acquired taste. It's an acquired taste. Oh, at work in Beverly Hills, slow day. Thank you, man. Back home, killing it over there on Beverly Hills. What street you on? So I can give a shout out to your store so you can be busy. Right? Like, it's an acquired taste. Like, Roppongi during the day, woo, amazing. But it's real ritzy. But Roppongi at night, acquired taste. Acquired taste. You get the hey, hey, hey. Okay. Everybody, check out check my man Daniel on Beverly, killing it. He needs some customers right now. He's like, yo, man, you go to Roppongi over in Japan, man. Like, it'd be real quick. You'd be like, hey, you want to come in this place? Yeah, I'm dead ass serious. It'd be Africans just trying to get you in there. Hey, come in here. Come in here. Hey, where are you from? Where are you from? Not from. I don't know how they roll the R in from, but they can do it for something. Where are you from? Where are you from? I'm from Los Angeles. You are from LA? You are from Los Angeles. I'm in my neighborhood, bro. Right? Where are you from? It's like, yo, where are you from? Like, I'm where are you from? It's like, I'm from oh, you are from Los Angeles. Yeah, I'm from Brooklyn. I am from Brooklyn, and you are from Los Angeles. We could have a good time in this place, my friend. It's like, I am not your friend, brother. I don't make fun of them, man. I don't make fun of them. I'm just saying, that's how they sound, right? It's different. I'm not making fun of them. I'm just saying that's how they sound when they approach you. They know how they sound. Don't get mad because I can do their accent. You're like, where are you from? Let you come in here, please. You will have a good time, no? You will have a good time, no? Right? So, you have a good time, no? I don't know. Yeah, my boy Candy, he got it. You are from Los Angeles, eh? You are from Los Angeles, eh? So yeah, we have the girls, the drinks, anything, anything. We have the girls, the drinks. Just come in here, and you know you're in trouble when they get you on the back. When they touch you on your back, when they kind of put their arm on you, and they touch like the mid size of your back, then you know it's a problem. Then you got a problem. Because you know you ain't going nowhere. They got that big, damn Kawhi Leonard hand on your back, and you can't go anywhere. Where are you going? Where are you going? Just go in here. Do I have no? No, I don't. That's inappropriate. That big Kawhi Leonard hand on your back, and you gotta go into the place that they ask you. you know. They got that big Kawhi Leonard hand on your back. That's Japan 101 right there. That's Japan. It's just a nice news. It's just a nice day today. That's why I'm walking around here. Right? I'm gonna give you guys 10 more minutes before I get off. But yeah, it's just a nice day. That's the only reason why I'm out here. Uh, I'm just like, yo, I'm sweating like crazy, but it's just nice today. So let me go outside and get my mind off of things. Right? How big is my closet? ちっちゃいよね。ちっちゃいよ。ちっちゃい。小さいです。小さいです。小さいです。いや、クローゼットは小さいなんですけど、なんか I do what I can, what I can. No, Reggie reaction on Kanye's Junior Watanabe on. I don't know. What did he say? I don't know what Kanye says. I don't follow Kanye like that, man. Okay, any thoughts on when Japan's borders are gonna open up? I do not know. 多分 earliest November, latest early next year. Yeah, early next year. I'm saying the earliest end of this year. Earliest, but likely probably early next year. We do. I got my jab. I got my jab. We got the vaccine over here. We got it. We got it. Like I got my jab. I get my second jab on I get my second jab in August. So then I'm fully vaxxed. Vaxxed up. You know? Vaxxed up. Yeah, so they pretty much they got a lot of old people. Like Japan is the one country where cats are like, yo, give us the vaccine, please. And the government just not doing it. Like the government's just like, nah, you good. You be alright. You be alright. Don't worry about it. You Japanese. You guys live forever. But low key, you be thinking that they just let it happen because Japan got a lot of old people and they're just like, this is just a nice way. This is a nice way to get rid of a problem that we have. If you don't think governments ain't thinking like that, you crazy. You know you crazy. Good and terrible. Right? Oh yeah, Japan's vaccine rollout is a dumpster fire and a half. You still got people catching COVID over here, like all the time. I mean, I guess you do have everywhere. Like in America, like they had like 60,000 cases yesterday. It's kind of crazy. Yeah, it's actually quite ridiculous over here. You think you're like, y'all be all right. Y'all be all right. How many old people we got? Y'all be all right. Y'all don't need no vaccine. Just wear a mask. You know, that's one thing that I'm tired of. That's why I'm not wearing a mask today. I'm like, fuck it. Excuse my language, but yeah, F it. Rude? Yeah, kind of. I mean, it's in the purview. Rude is one of those hype brands, but that's what it's made to be. It's made to be like that. So it's made to be popular, right? Some brands are just made to be popular. Some people make brands that they know are going to be popular. They get, keep eating rice, you'll live. Just keep eating the rice. ご飯食べて。ご飯食べて。Right? Yeah, Japan is in. Japan is in another. I mean, you just expect more. You just expect more. That's all. But yeah, as far as going back to rude, yeah, it's made to be like that. So yeah, it's a hyper brand. But I don't think everybody has access to it, right? Because it's quite expensive. ちょっとなんていうな。ちょっとなんていうな。ちょっと高いんですけど、高すぎ。高すぎ。高すぎ。You guys want to know a little bit of Japanese? Okay, なんていうの? How do you say Damn, I don't need thoughts on extra large. Good classic label if you're into. I think it's a great label if you want to do something outside of Bape or. I think yeah. I think Bape is like a great equivalent. So something that has like that Bape aesthetic, like the colors, but without the hype. Oh yeah, actually, any games lately? I actually been going over Ghost of Tsushima. Now, crazy thing about Ghost of Tsushima, like that game forced me to buy a PlayStation 5, right? Oh yeah, yeah. I just bought some AF Artifact just last week, so yeah, it's still going strong. Yoshiki's the man. Yoshiki's the man. Like that's my guy. Yeah. So that's why I was like, yo, I gotta get the PS5 version. Plus the new version's coming out. So probably one of my favorite games in the last few years. Dog, I had to, me and the PlayStation 5, long and arduous relationship about what I was actually gonna do. Has Vintage Gym, talking to Levi's, gotten way too expensive for anyone to get into? No, I don't think so, but it is getting really expensive. In Japan, you can't find any vintage Levi denim jeans for under like, anything under 250 is a blessing. Right? So if it's under 250, then it's a blessing. Like, but if it's not, that's normal. You see these like people do, like look what people do with their space. Right? It's like a nice little garden. Garden. Right? All right? Doom. That's your Ghost in the Shell right there. Right? Yes, it would definitely be easier to get into vintage Japanese brands because Japanese people make their denim. It's not as popular. Your boy LeVar Burton got the Jeopardy. Oh! Doo, doo, doo. This is Jeopardy with LeVar Burton. What did... I forgot LeVar Burton's voice. Take a look, it's in a book, it's a reading rainbow. That man will never... I met LeVar Burton's daughter here in Japan. I met his daughter, it was kind of cool. She's super LGBTQ though. Super, oh man. Himawari-ni-san. Himawari-ni-san. You want to see that? I hit a... Yo, these flowers always scare me, yo. Like, they're just unnatural to me. Right? Like, sunflowers? They're like aliens, man. They're like aliens, bro. Like, when they hit you, like, you're like, yo, man, that's just way too big of a flower. I'm sorry. That's too much. That's too much. Like... I'm actually just walking around. Okay, this is another cool area so you guys get to see your final round of houses. Samurai Champloo reference, I got that one. All right, I got that one. Hey man, ain't no flower taller than me, dog. Except sunflowers, right? I got the Samurai Champloo reference. I feel like my arm is going to be the strongest it's ever been in history. Because I've been holding up this phone for far too long. Right? Actually, there's some houses later on in this street that are going to be kind of crazy. I'd undergo surgery to have robotic eyes, though. Maybe. That might be something. I'm just reacting to what you guys are saying. Okay, let me see here. This is the main street in my area. This It's a little Western style home right here. New Jabez is popular, but there's a lot of people who kind of like took over the reins. Yamahiro to, I forgot what, Ken Nantoka, Ken Nishima, Itana. I forgot what his name was. Right? They're building stuff over here. Look at that construction truck. Super small, super tiny. Are corner plots more expensive? No, big spaces are far more expensive. Um, like, if you want, because corner plots are right on the corner, and even though they're spaced, they're right on the street. Like this place, go down here. This place right here is far more expensive because it's inside. Ah, there it is, Nishihara. Kinichiro. そうなんです。Nishihara-san. That guy. If you want to know some good music, lo-fi stuff, yes. Kinichiro. Basically, the spiritual successor to New Jabez. Sebajun. Yeah, listen to that guy. You'll love him. Promise you. Good one. Good call, man. I knew somebody would know. You guys are really Japanese fans. More than me. I can't even remember half of that stuff. So many things going on in my brain. Right? Unless the only corner spots that are actually expensive are in like, once you get into like the innards. The innards of like these streets and everything. Right? Once you start going down here. Dog. I got my homie sending me messages while I'm doing this. He's like, hey, do not film too close to the curb. Your arm will get hurt by the people who are walking around you. Now later, powers come by. Right. Oh. Right. So, right over here, all these places. I actually, the thing about it is, like Japanese houses, like even like the more expensive ones, like something like that. I actually love the space. The only thing that I don't like is the amount of ground space that you have. So you see right here, this is your house. Like you don't really have that much yard, and that could be a blessing and a curse. But say if you want to have like a basketball court or like a, just a hoop, it's hard to have that in these areas. But as far as like how nice they are and how small they are, I actually dig quaint places, like quaint and comfortable places. I really don't like super big houses because I don't ever want to be in a house where I can't go to every room every single day. Right? Beady. Beady, beady. Or beery. Just depends. Do you have a r? But does Sebajun name mean anything, or is it just an ordinary name? Sebajun is just a regular name. Sebajun is just a regular name. Nujabez, ne? Nujabez's name is Sebajun backwards. Right? Like this place right here. This place, I'm pointing at my face. This place right here, that place is expensive. This place is expensive, right? Because these are like, the thing about plots in Japan, a lot of people do a lot of renovating. So like all these places that I'm showing you, all these places that you see behind me, they probably were old Japanese houses, and they've probably been in the family for a long, long time. So this right here, this is super rare. Like this place is super expensive, but their plot was big. Having a 2-car garage in Japan is probably the rarest thing that you'll ever see. Nobody has that. Like literally. Right? Nobody has that. Like in Japan, a 2-car garage is so rare that, oh, I'll show you an example of what I mean. So this house right here, this is what I mean. Super big plot, but old Japanese house. Right? So super, super big plot. Like they even have their own little garage area right here. They have a lot of land right there, but it's a plot. right? That that you know probably a wealthy family has. That's all they got is that land. So they don't give it up until they want to renovate it, and then they build on top of it a new place. So a lot of these places are just renovated or torn down and new houses, right? The same thing happened to my place, right? My place was initially didn't look the way that it did. It was another place entirely, and they crashed it all down, and then they built another house. No, actually, because my house is quite big. Like my house is, we have a lot of land. So I'm not saying I'm hot shit. I'm just saying like our space is quite big for Japan. Actually, this is pretty much daily in Japan. Like this is, I'm actually being the nuisance out here, speaking as loud as I am. It's not bad. It's just that, yeah, I'm the loudest thing that'll ever be out here at any given time. Same thing with this place. This is another place, older Japanese house. Sorry, I'm still pointing at myself. Older Japanese house, but huge plot of land, right? Huge plot. Pretty much the land is worth way more. For example, there was a piece of land in our neighborhood that got, there was a house there and they torn down the house, and the land itself was, and it was not even that big, right? About as big as what I just showed you. And that land, just that little small plot of land was 2 million. Just the land was 2 million for a small little plot next to the train tracks. So when you're talking about land in Japan, super expensive, dummy expensive. Like for what you get, it's not even close. Not even close. Like just the land without the house built on top of it. It was just the ground. ありがとうございます。どこに住んでんの？今どこに？今どこ？今どこ？今どこですか？今どこに今どこに住みますか？ I have to say all of them because I don't know. Let me say all of them. See what happens. Man, I'm missing Japan. Hopefully they open it up to international travel soon. Love to do a tour with you. Hey, I'm always down. Oh, let me walk across this real quick. 2 million USD. ロンドン。面白い。行ってみたい。行ってみたい。ロンドン。Where did I get the shirt? It was actually gifted to me by a bait store person. And, you know, when Parco Shibuya opened, somebody gifted me the shirt. Yeah. 2 million USD. Like, I calculated that as $2 million. Like, I remember distinctly, me and my lady were talking about it, and we were like, how much is this land over here? I was like, what? She's like, yeah, that's $2 million, like, equivalent. I was just like, oh my God, no way. But as far as Japan is concerned, guys, I don't want to keep you on here too long. I love it here. I love it here. It fluctuates, Justin. I love it here mainly because there's like there's a semblance of peace, right? It's just peaceful. Like, and I think that that's what some Japanese people, I'll say this. For Japanese people, okay, wait, Daniel, there's actually a reason why you might, there's actually a reason for that. But I'm gonna get to that later. But for Japanese people, 日本に住むのがちょっと難しいなんだけど、なんか日本人が there's なんか期待 like expectation, like you have to be Japanese. There's pressure to be Japanese, right? So like when you're Nihonjin living in Japan, the expectation of being Japanese is very strong. And so a lot of Japanese don't really have fulfilling lives in Japan. They have very kind of rudimentary lives where they go to work at a typical Japanese company, Lantino, and really there's very little excitement outside of when they have scheduled vacations. And scheduled vacations all center around like Golden Week or Silver Week. And so most Japanese have a very kind of like standard existence where they don't really go out of their way to maybe like start a business or do consulting work. It's a very weird existence for Japanese. It's almost like ちょっとかわいそうかわいそうなんかロンドンに住んでる人は they probably have a better explanation of this. Um, and and in I'm not answering that question. Um, and so like as a foreigner living in Japan, you have there's the expectation. Their expectation is so low because they don't expect you to be, you know, Japanese. Like that expectation is low. So like your existence in Japan as a foreigner can be very, very pleasant if you go out of your way to take advantage of you being a foreigner, right? So like that's really, really a big issue. Like if you take advantage of you being a foreigner and you get into like industries where you can use that to the best of your ability, you can actually make quite a bit of money in Japan. And have a very peaceful existence without a whole bunch of people like in your ear telling you like you can't do something. And that's why I've been able to progress a lot further in Japan at a quicker pace because I'm not inundated with a whole bunch of people on every side of the mountain trying to tell me like, oh, you should do this, you should do that. You're just kind of left to your own devices and you're just living life kind of like the way that like you're kind of living life in a very like how you really should, right? So you get the benefits of the kind of Japanese lifestyle, but you get the benefits of Japanese lifestyle, but as a non-Japanese, right? So as a non-Japanese, you get like the benefits of it, but you know, yeah, yeah. Since your time, I'm actually doing Q&A right now, so because yeah, there you go. Have you seen the change in treatment towards Japanese non-white mixes? I mean, Japan's a strange place. I mean, again, this is a country that's 98.9% Japanese. And like I've told people before, my expectation for Japanese is not really high when it comes to diversity. That being said, I think the criticisms of Japan when it comes to people of the darker complexion is kind of overblown in a lot of cases, but sometimes it definitely needs to be brought out. But the simple fact of the matter is that there's just not enough. There's not enough black and brown people in Japan, right? There's just not. Like, there's not enough people over here to give Japanese people a different perspective. So their viewpoint is always coming from the viewpoint of the media. So if you guys really want to change the minds of Japanese people, you need to have an influx of people who are of different races, different creeds, and different ethnicities, mainly black and Latino, to come over here and kind of give them a different perspective. If you don't, then they're only going to take what's popular and use that as the perspective. And I think a lot of people kind of miss out on that little aspect. You can't expect people to know everything about your culture if you're unwilling to, you know, at least present to them different sides of that culture. Japanese people typically, I mean, Naomi is celebrated like crazy over here. They love Naomi Osaka. But she's an athlete and she's famous. So you gotta understand that. Like Mandy and Nesmith are also famous people. They're not gonna talk about them because they're famous, right? But if you're just talking about the general black or brown person walking up the street, they have probably a different perspective that's based on, you know, popular media. We can't use celebrities as the benchmark for whether, any people like a particular people. Those people are famous. Those people aren't, by the time when you're famous, you're no longer your color or your ethnicity. You're you. That's the benefit of being like a famous person. Um, you don't have to be black anymore. Like Naomi Osaka doesn't have to be black. She's just simply Naomi Osaka. And that's just the benefit of being famous, right? And so we can't use her as a benchmark, unfortunately. But we can use like my experience. Um, my experience is a very standard experience in Japan. I know people look at my whiskers. I'm not as old as what you think. I just got gray hairs because I'm stressed out. Right? I was 27? No, 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 no. 25. 25 when I moved to Japan. I know I got these whiskers, man. They just came in early. That's all there is to it. They came in early. I'm not as famous as Naomi Osaka, right? I know I got the whiskers on, but they came in early. That's all there is to it. Some of us don't have good. I don't have all of the youth genes in me. If I cut them off, I look younger. You know what I'm saying? About to dye them up though. But yeah, no. Yeah, the existence in Japan is just a little bit different. So my expectation for Japanese, yes, we're gonna be doing more of these for sure. But my expectation of Japanese people, when it comes to like social issues and it has to deal with like black and brown people, uh, it's just not high. It's like I don't expect them to treat me like I'm Japanese. But I would say if I were to give you anything, it's like I tell everybody, I don't really see that much kind of vitriol from Japanese people. That's like the least amount of vitriol I get from, which is crazy. Which might sound, I should say, which might sound crazy. The most I get is from either people who are either people who are either なんか America, no, Japanese American. Usually it's are like just Japanese Asian American. Like a lot of Asian Americans. Actually, I've had a little bit more issues with them than I've had with Japanese people. Right? Like I've had more issues with them than I've had with actual Japanese people, and I don't know why. I can only assume that it's because it looks like I'm kind of piggybacking off of, or maybe I'm exploiting Japanese culture. But when I say I haven't had problems with Japanese, anytime that I speak to a Japanese person and they've either seen my channel, um, they always come up to me and say, hey, I appreciate what you're doing because nobody gets to know about Japanese stuff a lot of the time from a Western perspective, and you actually give a good representation of it, and they appreciate it. And I love, and I'm not saying all Asian Americans do this, so I don't want to generalize, but for the most part, I've noticed I've noticed a lot of Asian Americans and a lot of like people who are either Japanese American, who are more Americanized, and they have like an issue with me being in Japan. Because I'm either a Japanophile or a weeb. Like that's the first inclination that a lot of people get. Like, you're this weeb, you're obsessed with Japan. It's like, dude, it's my area of study. Like, I literally studied it in college. It's literally my major. Like, Asia Kenkyu. Like, that is my major with a focus in Japanese language and history. It is my field of study. And the fact that it's my field of study means I'm going to respect it as my field of study, but I'm also going to be very critical when things need to be critical. But also, I'm not going to expect Japanese people to just flip on a dime, because there's just not enough people over here to change those kind of attitudes. And I hope everybody kind of gets that. Like, I'm not gonna go over to Korea and be like, oh my God, Koreans aren't treating uh, black people well. It's like Koreans don't have enough experience with black people to treat them well. Not to say that it's good, not to say that it's a good thing. It's backwards in a way, but Korea is like 99% Korean. So, and the same case for Japan. The thing about Japan that makes it so pleasant is that people don't go out of their way to voice voice their discontent. Like, they don't go out of their way to be like, oh, I don't like this person, or say something nasty about people, like online or otherwise. Um, and and that's that's a little bit easier to take. I would say that that's a lot easier to take. It's a lot easier to kind of like live in Japan because people aren't going out of their way to berate you, and you can kind of, they just leave you to your own devices. Like, I'm in here right now. I got Japanese people sitting over here. Um, I got Japanese people over here. They're not afraid to come into the park, and I mean, I'm talking to you guys, and nobody's saying anything, right? They're here, they're around here, they living their life. So that's, they're not gonna just not be in here because I'm sitting here. So like, that's why I say, like, the experience that you might see, um, um, the experience that people might tell you, like, about living in Japan and how hard it is as a foreigner, like, that's because they're focusing on it. They're looking for it. When you're searching for it, you're gonna find it. You know, that's all I have to say. When you're searching for it, you're gonna find it, and it can be difficult, right? It can be difficult, but what I've learned is that the minute that you put like a Japanese person in, like you send a Japanese person who's interested in like Western cultures, um, and then you put them in America. Like, you put a Japanese person who's interested in American culture, you put them in America and let them live there for like 2 years. I guarantee you, when they come back, they're like, what the hell is going on? Because you got to think about it. For us, me moving to Japan, the expectation is low. So that means I'm a lot more freer. Like, I'm a lot free. I'm a lot more freer, more freer. I'm a lot more free in Japan than I would be even in the States, because I can be who I am without the pressure of filling a role, right? I don't have to fill a role. Whereas a Japanese living in the States, it's the polar opposite. They don't have to fill their role as a Japanese. They can essentially just be who they are, right? Um, they can be who they are. And the fact that they can be who they are allows them to open up just a bit to what they truly want to do, right? So like, it's just like the polar opposite when you're not trying to fill a role. Because in America, I'm a black dude in America, and I may have a skill set, but I'm first a black dude in America, right? In Japan, I'm whatever the hell I want to be. Like, I'm Reggie, right? And so it depends on how the world receives you. And when you have the world receiving you in a particular way, it makes it can either make the situation hard, uh, or the situation easier. But it depends on how you take it. If you're looking for trouble, you're gonna find it. If you're not looking for trouble and you're trying to live easy, um, then it's gonna be easy for you. But I will say, like, living in America is tough, especially if you're an American, because that expectation kind of gets to you. Just like it's tough for Japanese people living in Japan. They don't even know how tough it is, but even if they don't know how tough it is, it's tough. But for me, I'm walking around in a park at 10 a.m. in the morning. Like, what am I doing? Like, yeah, I'm doing work, but I'm talking to you guys. Like, how many people, like, the only people in this place are like older Japanese people and housewives. I mean, when I first moved to Japan, I wasn't an entrepreneur. You know, I was I worked for a company, right? I was a worker. So, I mean, most of the time when I was walking around in Japan, I was just trying to have some fun, you know? Just trying to have fun, just trying to live life, you know? I was in Japan for the first time, wanted to chill out, talk to some ladies, whatever, kick it with some homies, just have a good time, you know? But once I got, into the business area, it was like, yo, it was all business, you know? It was all business. It was like, yo, what am I gonna do to kind of navigate this place? I remember the day that I decided to come back to Japan and live there. Okay, that's a good question. What would you say is the best way to transition from an English teacher in Japan to a resident living there? I got a foolproof plan for anybody who wants to move to Japan and they want to start as a teacher. All right, so you want to come to Japan, you don't care what it takes, and you're just willing to be an English teacher in Japan, right? So this is my challenge to you. Oh yeah, man, that's why it's getting died out. I ain't even going front. Um, so my foolproof plan is this, real easy. When you come to Japan, the first thing that you do is instead of spending your money on like traveling and stuff, just take that year and go to Japanese class. Get in a class, take Japanese lessons, and that'll be your only thing that you do. Take Japanese classes. I'm telling you, that will change everything for you. It will change everything. The minute that you, because if you do Japanese classes, like good ones for a year, like you can make like business level Japanese, like easy. It's not even that hard because you'll be taking classes, you got direction, and they give you lessons, and you'll finish those lessons. If you dedicate your whole time, that whole first year of you working in Japan to Japanese study, the window, all those doors just open up. Girls ain't gonna give you enough Japanese. If you don't want to be an English teacher, become a Japanese language student. Become a Japanese language student. Just do that. Just come to Japan and go to one of these Japanese language schools. I guarantee you the doors open up wide open. Wide open. Just go, just become a Japanese language student. Just do it. It's that easy. Your Japanese will be at such a high level by that time. Even if you have no experience in Japanese, in a year you'll be super good because you'll have to actively use it. That's the one of the great things about living in Japan um, and studying Japanese. You have to actively use it once you get it. So, でね、だから日本でなんか日本語喋るのが必要なんですけど、なんか日本語の勉強の1年間日本語の勉強やったらそれは十分です。じゃあ1年2年かな。1 or 2 years。じゃあ1年かな。2年かな。じゃあ最近はね、特別の会社が英語必要なんですけど、なんていうの、ネットフリックスとか楽天とかユニクロもね、その会社は英語必要なんですけど、日本語も必要なんですけど、So you have to speak both. 両方もいります。I think most people think Japanese is hard because of なんていうの、 漢字とかひらがなとかカタカナとか、それは難しいなんですけど、なんていうの日本語喋るのがちょっと難しくないんですけど、like speaking Japanese is not hard, right? But learning like 漢字カタカナちょっとひらがなとか, that is a little bit hard. Right? That can be difficult. But speaking Japanese, you just have to listen. You just have to listen and just keep repeating. Because Japanese is very repetitive. For example, it's very natural to like repeat something. Like, you know how like in English, it's not very natural to like repeat the same thing that somebody said to you. But in Japanese, it pretty much is. For example, if somebody says, like, I'm going to the store, like, 店に行ってきます. Like, a Japanese person can respond and go, oh, 店に行ってきますか? Right? Right? I'm going to the store. Oh, you going to the store? Like, that's weird. And like, we actually say that. That's kind of weird in English. But in Japanese, it's very normal. 日本語わからないんですけど、ごめんなさい。Right? Right? So like, なんていうの? Like it's very normal. 日本冷たいなんか一番日本の料理は何ですか? 私の一番いい一番良い2レベルは大丈夫なんですけど、日本語能力試験で2級is enough。日常会話で3級、日常会話3級なんです。Right? 日常会話は3級レベル。But if you want to work, you need 2級。You need 2級。They'll actually require it. They'll be like, you need to take the Japanese language test and you need to get 2級 level. 新しい3級はなんか日常会話なんです。So that's really good. Like the new 3級 level, the new 3 level in Japanese for the test for 日本語能力試験 is a really high level, right? What's it like? I'll tell you in a second, Haley Joe. The new 3級is actually really good. Nikyu is still the same. So Nikyu is the second level, which is the second to highest level in Japanese. Nikyu level is like business level, and that's pretty much jubun. You don't need more than business level in like Japanese. EQ is a flex. Like if you can speak if you take the Japanese Noryoku Shiken and you get EQ, and you pass it, it's a flex. Because it's なんか日本人全然使わない日本語。Like it's Japanese that Japanese people don't use. It's Japanese that Japanese people don't use. It is. It's like Japanese people don't use it. Like I was studying for the EQ test, the first level test, because I wanted to see if I could do it. And a Japanese person looked at my study materials and they were like, それは全然使わない日本語. And I was like, 本当ですか? It was like, そうなんですけど、これはちょっとなんかちょっと古い。Like it's really really old, and なんか文法 was really like nobody uses it. So I was like, okay. They were like, and then he told me, he was like, your level right now is fine. Like you don't have to take the test. I was like, oh, for real? He's like, yeah. And at that point I was just like, all right, I'm not gonna waste my time, right? I'm not gonna waste my time. The way that so the thing about English for if you're an English speaker, so here's it is. If you're an Arabic speaker, Japanese is going to be easier for you. If you're a French speaker, Japanese might be a little bit easier for you. If you're a Spanish speaker, Japanese pronunciation is going to be a lot easier for you. And if you're a Chinese speaker, Japanese is going to be you're going to be able to read Japanese better. If you're a Korean speaker, Japanese is going to be super easy for you to learn. Like Koreans learn Japanese in such a short amount of time, it's actually laughable because the language follows the same structure. So all they have to do is literally input words. Like they're like, what is this word? What is this word? What is this word? Because the format is the same. So Korean people learn Japanese. Out of everybody that I've met, Korean people learn Japanese the fastest, like the fastest. The people who learn Japanese the slowest, in my experience, have always been English speakers. And the reason for this is twofold. One, our pronunciation is different, and two, we're stubborn, right? Like we're stubborn language learners, English speaking people, because English is a very colorful language. There's so many different ways. There's so many different ways to say so many different things. Like I could say, I'm going to the store, I'm fixing to go to the store, I'm trying to go to the store, I'm about to hit up the store. So, so it's really difficult. There's so many different variations of how to say the same thing. Whereas in other languages, there's a distinct way that you say it, and then every other variation is just based off of pronunciation and you know where your social surroundings. But in English, there's variables. There's so many different variables. So Japanese ends up being kind of hard because Japanese doesn't have that many variables. There's a way to say something, and then there's a way not to say something. Like there's a way to say something that is very Japanese. People from Africa actually have a very easy time learning Japanese too, which is actually another thing, right? That's another thing. A lot of African people actually have because a lot of them speak French and Spanish, but also a lot of African languages follow some of the same rules as Japanese. A lot of Nigerians speak Japanese pretty fluently over here. Maybe not the pronunciation is not perfect, but definitely they can speak it. They can walk around and facilitate in Japanese all day. And, but English speakers tend to be very, very stubborn in Japanese, mainly because we want to know the reasons for everything. And also, English speakers, we have a lot of character when we speak, right? We have a lot of character when we speak. So everybody has we use a lot of body language, we use a lot of character, and a lot of what we say is based on our character. And in Japanese, you may have noticed if you watch a Japanese animation, or if you watch Japanese drama, or if you just watch Terrace House, you might notice that a lot of the same kind of instances of character come up. For example, Japanese people have this thing where they go, are? そんな、本当ですかマジでそうなんだlike this is very, very common in Japanese amongst all Japanese people. So this character, people do have character in Japanese, but a lot of the things that they say are the same, right? Right? So pretty much everybody says the same things, even though they may have a different kind of way of saying it. They all say the same things. If a girl sees something cute, she's always like, "Oh, kawaii, oh, kawaii." It's funny. It seems funny, but it's very. Thank you for bringing that up, definitely. But it's common. So that's the reason why. Japanese is hard. Is hard for a lot of people because you want to express your character and you feel limited because you can't say it all. まさかマジで もうやば。マジでマジでマジでそんなえ like your young Japanese dude マジでマジっすか right so okay, so Haley Joe, what is it like being a foreigner in Japan in the fashion industry? What are the barriers to entry? Honestly, the biggest barrier to entry is language. That's why I keep on, people say kawaii all the time. Like even dudes be like, "Hey, kawaii desu ne." Kawaii desu ne. Right? Kawaii. Right? But yeah, the biggest barrier entry is definitely um, language. Like if you could speak Japanese, all the doors open. Like, but the crazy thing is, like, a lot of people in the fashion industry in Japan, they do speak English, but when you're trying to correspond, like correspondence is hard, right? Because maybe you need to say something on an email or connect with people. It's just useful to have a Japanese person on deck, right? It's useful to understand it. So, like, that that's probably the biggest barrier to entry. But another barrier to entry is actually time. It's one thing that young Japanese people have been complaining about for about years. And thank you. Young Japanese people tend to, not like that they have to spend years and years at a job just to get to like a high position. And so one of the biggest barrier to entries in Japan as far as working is tenure. Like you can't just be a genius savant in Japan and automatically get put in in a high position. Even if you are a genius savant in Japan, you still have to go through like years and years and years of experience. Oops, car behind me, right? You still have to go through all these years of just working for a company before anybody respects your work. And a lot of Japanese young people are like, that's a bunch of bull crap because I see in America, these kids are like doing whatever the hell they want at like age 16, and I have to wait until I'm 58 just to get a good salary. That doesn't always happen, but it kind of limits people's ability to elevate themselves at an earlier age. And so that's a big barrier to entry for a lot of Japanese people. So when you come to Japan in the fashion industry, if you're young, they look at you like, well, you're just not as you don't even have to tell them like you could be experienced as hell, but they could just look at you and be like, this person's inexperienced because they're young. Like they don't even consider what you've done a lot of the time. And you'd be like, oh, you look young, so how can we trust you? Also, another big barrier to entry in Japan, just in any business, is that if you're a foreigner living in Japan, they don't expect you to continue to be in Japan. So I can't tell you how many times people have looked over me because I'm a foreigner in Japan and they expect me to leave automatically, right? They'd be like, oh, you're a foreigner, so obviously you're not gonna be here. Um, you're not gonna be here. So it's gonna, that's the end of that. It's over, right? So we don't want to work with somebody who's gonna leave. And then I have to let them know, it's like, no, I actually live in Japan. I've been living here for some time. They're like, oh, maji de? Maji desu ka? They're like, maji de? Maji de. Right? It's like, honestly, I live here. So, and then they get like excited because they're like, oh, we get to work with somebody we know is not gonna leave us. So that's always a barrier to entry as well. But it's getting better. I'd say it's getting a lot better for Japanese society in general, but it's going to take some time. Again, this is a country that was forced to be more online by virtue of the pandemic. So I guess silver lining. They were forced to be more
social media. Like they're forced to see like the changing winds of society, like with their top athletes in their country often are of mixed descent, right? So it's definitely something. But yeah, that's pretty much life in Japan. I hope just like I hope that I hope more and more people end up coming to Japan and learning Japanese. And if you're inspired by what I can do, like you know all right, you know if you're inspired by that, I'm really happy, because that's all I really want people to do. Like, I think that we get caught up in what this is all about, and all of this is about, like, this whole experience that I'm trying to do is not just to teach you guys about fashion or teach you guys about Japan. Um, okay, hold up, I'll answer that question. Uh, how is it healthcare in Japan? It's actually pretty good. Healthcare is really good. I mean, healthcare is universal healthcare in Japan, and so, yeah, very useful. I love it. Taxes are quite high in Japan, but you realize how much money you save. Um, how is starting a company in Japan? Ooh, and you're 日本人。それはね、ちょっと難しいなんですけど、まだ難しいなんですけど、マジで難しいなんですけど、それは日本の立ち上げた時に、なんか、タックス超全然違いますよね。Like, it's so different. Like, business tax and regular tax in Japan, because now, like, I don't do my taxes as kojin. Sorry. I don't do my taxes as kojin. I do my taxes as kaisha, right? And because it's so different, like, I'm never prepared for my taxes. I actually had to hire somebody to do my taxes for me. So, like, opening a business in Japan is can be difficult if you don't have like a guarantor. Like in America, I could just start a business. I could just be like, yeah, I got a business, started it. But in Japan, like, you have to register. Um, you have to register that company as soon as possible. So that's 難しいですよ。Because if you don't, like, they'll take your money, right? Um, no, we're not happy about the Olympics at all. It's stupid what we're doing at this point, but a lot of money involved. It's not about the people, it's about the money. Um, so, like, yeah, it's just 難しいよ。なんでそんなになんでそれはねえ Opening a business in Japan is not easy, but it's worth it once you do it. So if I were to suggest anybody, um, um, if I were to suggest anything, start with kojin jugyo. Kojin jugyo is like personal business. It makes it a lot easier. So it's just like doing your personal taxes, but it's a business. My favorite brand when I came to Japan was obviously Undercover. What about taxes for immigrants, foreigners? I know. No, I pay regular. Because I'm under a business, I just pay regular taxes. I don't have foreign tax. The only thing that I have to do, 日本 remember what I told you? When a Japanese person asks you how long you've been speaking Japanese or how long you've been studying Japanese, that's the question that you want. I'm not sure if that person was Japanese, but this person asked me, how long have I been speaking Japanese or how long have I been studying Japanese? なんかね、大学で4年ぐらいかな、やっぱりね。その後、なんか、日本に住んで2年の後、2級レベルだって。2級レベル合格した。So after I lived in Japan for about 2 years, I passed the second level business test. So, yep. So I'd say 4 years plus the 2 years that I just waited to take because I didn't take level 3. I didn't want to take level 3. I took level 2 straight out the gate. So I waited another 2 years before I took that test, and then I passed it. Now, here's the thing about the test. Just because you pass level 2, like the level 2 test, doesn't mean that you're supposed to be like pera pera, or like your hatsuon mo ii shi. Like, I think a lot of people get the wrong idea. We're like, yo, I'm Nikkei level. They were like, oh, you're Japanese, must be like Japanese people. And it's just like, well, I asked that question to you. Like, what do you think? Like, I always ask Japanese people to truthfully tell me, right? Especially Japanese people who also speak English. Like, how is my Japanese? You've heard me so far. So how is my Japanese? Is it good? Is it okay? Do you think it did well for my Japanese level? Do you think that this path was good? Do you think that I still need to do some work? I always ask Japanese people to tell me honestly, because treat me like I'm learning, right? I'll never stop learning. So for me, no, you'll be fine in Japan. Don't worry about it. There's a lot of people here who, you get a good support structure if you do that. But, you do run the risk of being alone. But yeah, I always ask Japanese people, like, 俺の日本語はどうですか? They'd be like, 俺? 僕の日本語はどうですか? Like, 俺はちょっと失礼なんだけど. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, you could take the JLPT level 2, and you could still be like, I know a lot of foreigners who've opened up stores in Japan, so it's not as hard as you think. Like, I know a dude who opened a sandwich shop. Yeah, so yeah. 俺についてはどういうものですか? No opinion. So if I were to go to Japan for the first time, what would I need to do to be socially acceptable and not seem disrespectful? I don't know. I mean, the fine art community in Japan is huge and best observed galleries are always happening in Japan. So it's huge. It's way more active. Yeah, way more active than you might think. So especially in Tokyo, there's always events happening. I'm not sure how Japan kind of looks at the 何ですかこれ? As far as I'm concerned, I'm answering like 5 questions at once. As far as I'm concerned, in Japan, just be respectful of the rules, right? ルールを守る. Hey, Michael, how you been doing? ルールを守らないと. Just follow the rules. Like, you can, stand on the right side of the escalator, get on trains the right way. Pretty much it's hot out here, so I need to go inside. So like, yeah, just follow the rules and you'll be fine. That don't mean that you need to just like succumb to every Japanese thing. But, follow the rules that you can follow, the Japanese way. Like, get on the trains the right way, sumimasen, those kind of things. Be respectful of, Japan's a pretty clean place. Throw your trash away if you can't. カナダが好き. Kanata? Can you put it in right? See? Yeah, see? See, there we go. That's a good one. Your Japanese level, your Japanese is good. Not native level. I see you're still choosing thinking words, but certainly impressive. See, like, and that's what I think my level is, right? Um, I choose the words that I'm more comfortable using, right? And I would never claim that I'm like like a really good Japanese speaker, but I can facilitate in this language, and that's what's important. Like that's the most important thing. And I'm not. Here's the thing. I'm of the belief that I'll never be like a native level Japanese, right? Like I'm a foreigner, right? Like I'm already of that belief, and even if no matter how good I get, I'm still. I don't think I'm ever gonna be like that. Pera pera, right? Like you guys can look at people, like maybe I mean maybe when I'm older, like I can be like David Spector or Pakun, but those guys are old. Or, I know a lot of people point to like Dogen as being like the quintessential. That's how I want to speak Japanese speaker. Like I want to be like Dogen mitai na. And Dogen is also still learning, right? Like even him, he's good, really good. But as a foreigner, like any Japanese can tell that I'm not Japanese. I don't think Japanese look down on foreigners, but they certainly are impressed when you can facilitate in Japanese. And that's the only thing. Like I can facilitate in the language and I can operate in the language. And honestly, I understand far more than I speak. Right? Like I'm gonna just be real with you. Like I understand a lot more than I speak. When Japanese people start speaking, I'm just like, right? Yeah, Pakun is Pakun is like where like every person would want to be. But again, Pakun has been in Japan for like over like 30 years, right? And so like David Spector, same thing. They've been in Japan for so long. And they've been speaking Japanese for so long. I'd be surprised if they weren't that good. Like you asked me earlier if I felt like 4 years in college and then 2 years in Japan were good enough. ディーブスペクターもう日本でいやそうだよね like yeah, like David Spector is a guy and is like this personality in Japan. He's a white dude from America, but his Japanese is so damn good that he might as well be Japanese. Like he's he is Japanese. Like the dude is way too good. Like as far as levels are concerned, there's like three guys in Japan that are like from like I think they're from the U.S. who are really really good at Japanese. Um, and then there's a couple of like singers and stuff like Chris Hart. He's pretty good at Japanese. Um, and then there's another guy. I forgot what his name. A black dude from America who's really good at Japanese. He's like super famous now. But there's like Atsugiri Jason. Then there's Pakun, and then there's David Spector. Like those three guys are dummy good at Japanese. Like so good that I wouldn't even like I can't even think to be that good. But if I'm like a lot of people have told me if you're on this trajectory, like right now, if you're at this level right now, by the time you get like their age, you'll probably be that level, right? But they have been here for so long because they communicate as Japanese. Like that's how they operate. And their level is so insanely high that it's like they are EQ level. Like they are like Japanese. But I've never claimed to be like as good as those guys. Those guys are really good at Japanese. So if you really want a barometer of how good you can be at Japanese, I'm basically I'm testing, I'm Nikyu. Speaking, I would say you can't really put a level on that. I would say if I were to give myself my own grade, 65%, 65, like 65%. Oh, oh yeah, Ike is pretty good too. Like, like I would say like 65%. Like I'm business level testing for sure, because I passed the test at NICU. But like speaking, I would say like a 65 for sure. Like 65, I'm pretty confident in a 65. Because as my man said, like I'm still thinking and choosing words, right? And basically what that means is that even though I can facilitate in the language, I'm still I'm still thinking about which words I should use in that instance, and they're not coming to me naturally, right? I'm still thinking about what word do I use in this position, and I know that that's an issue with me. That's why I always say nantino, 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 nantino. Like if you like, he hears it, right? Because I'm always saying nantino, nantino, because I'm thinking about the words. Whereas a Japanese person, they would easily just pull out the word that I was thinking about, right? Because they just like me speaking English right now, right? Like it's I don't have to think about the next word that I'm gonna say in English. I think the thought comes out. In Japanese, there are certain things that I just like. If somebody asked me at a store, uh, how am I going to pay for this? I can instantly repeat it and say, I'm going to pay by credit de. Sa, card de haraimasu ne. Like that's easy because I say it so many times. But that being said, in more complex conversations, I'm frequently have to think about not try to translate, but think about the word that I'm looking for, right? And Japanese people don't do that. Right? They don't do that. They don't have to do that. And neither does, Pak-kun or David Spector. Like they speak Japanese with a fluency that's just like. So that's the level you really want to get to. That's the level that you really are looking for. And like I look at like you. Um, I think the only time that I'm kind of embarrassed. No, actually not embarrassed about speaking Japanese. The only time that I get really the only time that I'm conscious of speaking Japanese is when I have to do it on camera. Like when I have to think about it. Like when I have to write a script. Because my Japanese in script form is pretty much heta. It's super poor. Like it's not good. And it's not how I sound in Japanese. And like my biggest strength in Japanese, in my opinion, my biggest strength in Japanese is not necessarily knowing, like my vocabulary is okay, but I think that my trajectory of pronunciation is pretty good. Like, and that's not to say that my pronunciation is perfect right now, but my trajectory of pronunciation is good. So I think I can get to a, I think I have the prospect of being like a Nantino, like getting to the pronunciation level of like a Pakun or David Spector. I have that prospect. I'm on that trajectory if I keep studying, if I keep listening to Japanese, if I keep going in that direction. But that's my strongest. I think that that's my strongest area. My weakest area is quite often I can't find the words that I'm looking for. Like just studying goi toka, like it's not going to help you. You really have to be in a situation where you're watching Japanese people listening to Japanese people use Japanese in a more conversational format. And that's not always easy to find, right? It's not always easy. You have to be very, very active in Japanese language in order for it to be a natural thing. So that's what I'm going to give you today, as far as learning the language. That doesn't mean that you, なんていうの? That's what I said. That's what I'm saying. Like, when it comes to my prospect, my prospect, my hatsuon, the prospect of me speaking Japanese as far as my pronunciation level. I think that my pronunciation level and the prospect is incredibly, it's on the right trajectory, right? It's in the right position. Like, I'm in the right position, but I have to become more natural at all the other stuff. So once I get there, it'll be very fluid, so to speak. Maybe not as good as English, but pretty close, right? 練習だよね、練習。練習だよね。Like, I have to practice. And it's hard, you know. It's not easy, but I can facilitate. And that's where you want to be. If you want to study Japanese, get to a point where you can facilitate in the language, and you probably wouldn't have any more problems. There's a reason why I have a business here. There's a reason why I've worked here at companies. There's a reason why I've done consulting work. There's a reason why I've gotten where I am. It's not because I can't speak Japanese. It's because I can't facilitate in the language. That doesn't necessarily mean that I'm super dummy good, or I'm like David Spector. And also, I'd like to point out, I'm not Japanese. 日本人ではないんですけど, like, I'm not Japanese. Like, I try to get that through to people. Like, I'm not Japanese. Like, I don't expect my Japanese to be as good as a Japanese person. I'm not Japanese. And I think that that's a big thing for you guys to know. If you're not Japanese, you can't expect yourself to be Japanese. Like, unless you were born in Japan. Like, my little one, I have a daughter. My daughter's Japanese, she's 3 years old. My daughter's Japanese is way, like, as far as how she facilitates in Japanese, it's way better than my Japanese. Like, for her, she's just like, she's Japanese, right? Like, she is, right? So, like, my daughter's Japanese is really good because she's a 3-year-old Japanese kid, right? So, like, she may not know she doesn't know as many words as I do. Like, for instance, I was low-key happy, little story. I was low-key happy when I was reading her a book one time, right? So she likes to speak in Japanese, but read English books. So she likes me to read English books to her, but she likes to speak Japanese. So she gives me her book, right? And like I said, she speaks Japanese. So when she gives me the book and she says she wants me to read the book. And so to ask somebody to read a book, like if you wanted your parent to read a book or something to you or something like that, it's you use the Japanese yomimasu, like yomu, right? And so she goes, but there's a gerund form. That doesn't mean that I'm not in my my late 20s. Just I got a daughter, right? I could have had a daughter when I was 25. You don't know that, right? So my daughter, I was in the bed one time. She goes, "Yomite, yomite." Now, if you're a Japanese person, you know it's not yomite. Like, yomite is not how you say, "please read." Or like, "Yomite kudasai." That's not, nobody says that. So she says, "Yomite," right? Yomite, and it's not yomite. So she's like, "Yomite." And I'm like, and I got low-key happy because I got to teach her some Japanese, right? So I look at her and I say, "No-chan, yomite じゃなくて、読んで, right? she's like, yonde. Right? So that was um, like probably probably like the best moment that I've had with my daughter, and probably the only time I'll ever get to correct her Japanese. No, she's Japanese. She's Japanese and black. So, yeah. uh, so yeah, that got me because I was like, oh, this is like the time. This is it. This is it. I got it. Something I'm better at her. That she's gonna be better at me than she's gonna be better than me at Japanese. Like she's gonna be better, right? And I'm actually happy. Like I'm proud. Like this is wild. Like she's like, yo mite, papa, yo mite, yo mite. I'm like, yonde. And then she was like, yonde, right? Uh, but it was like one of those things where I knew something that she didn't know, and that was uh, that was a good moment for me, because one like she and I hated sometimes I hated what should I just shout? um, yeah, it was a good time, like you don't get that many moments, especially like in a different language. Uh, so yeah. But yeah, no, Yabatan ne. But yeah, like Japanese, if you the most important, um, absolutely, me too, man. If you're coming around, just let me know. Habarashi. I will say this as my last note to you guys because I got to get out of here. Um, Once again, I want to give you guys uh, a big thank you for being part of the channel. Please watch more. Share the videos if you think that they're interesting. If you're a Japanese person and you can, you know, help me out with Japanese, that'd be great. ただじゃんじゃん。 uh, join Patreon if you can. It really goes a long way. Even $2 goes a long way, helping us keeping this thing off of the ground, help us pay the bills. Uh, yeah, all of that. And oops, I paused on you. And again, like if you are Japanese and I say something in Japanese that you don't like, please. お目に見てください. Like please be kind to me. Like I'm not trying to butcher your language. I'm trying to get better at it, and that's all there is to it. And if I can do it on camera, 日本語上手ですよ。日本語上手ですよ。そういうことは You're being nice to me. 出た。日本語上手でしょ。マジでやばい。出たなんだっけ? Like, because, but I was telling you guys earlier, when Japanese person say Jozu nandesukedo, like, when they say that, they mean, like, oh, it's pretty good. It ain't bad. But you still, you still got a lot of work to do, homie. Right? No, but, only thing that's important to me is, only thing that's important to me is, getting better. So as long as I can get better, uh, that's all that's important. So thank you guys so much for joining. 日本語は悪くない。なんてね。めっちゃ上手。上手ですよ、ローキーバックヘンド。めっちゃ上手。ありがとうございますね。ありがとうございます。もう勉強してますので、よろしくお願いしますね。だからね、 As always, keep it locked right here for all of your info, international street fashion culture and business from Tokyo. It's your boy, and keep it casual. Yoroshiku onegaishimasu. And I will see you guys in a minute. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm actually going to put this on the. I might put this on the main channel, so you guys can watch it over again if you want to. Thank you guys so much. Deuces. Thank you, man. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining Patreon. All you new people who joined Patreon, Haley, Joe, all you guys who are already on there. You guys have been great. Thank you so much. I'm out.